Hello, everybody. I'm Jehron Petty, founder and CEO of ColorStack. This is a special limited podcast series to celebrate ColorStack's 5th anniversary, internally known as the Quinquennium, aka the Quinny. In this series, we're talking to some of the people who helped build the foundation of ColorStack. From funders to students to team members, you're getting a 360-degree view into the work that's powered us and why we're thriving today. Today, I'm joined by the one and the only Rami Abdou. Rami, how you doing?
Hey, thank you so much. That was beautiful. I love that. That was a full. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
You got some good marketing
And I'm
support, man.
blessed. Yeah, definitely. You get some good coaching, but I like that. Even
For sure.
the speed of the voice, and it was very
There you go.
soothing. Like it was almost like it should be on the Calm app. You know what I mean?
Listen,
Like
listen.
I
I
love
say
that.
we make this a TikTok clip and we call it a day.
Let's do
Forget the
it.
podcast. That was it right there.
Let's
That's all I
do
need to
it.
hear.
I'm down. I'm down. I'm doing good,
Cool.
man.
Well,
How about you?
everybody who listens to this probably knows who you are. But just for level setting, give us an intro, background. Who is Rami Abdou? What has he done? What is he up to now?
Oh man, it's gonna be difficult. My name is Rami Abdou. I am the head of engineering here at ColorStack. Um, I have been in the startup scene since graduation in 2020. A little bit of context, John and I went to school at Cornell. Obviously got to do some pretty cool things on campus. After that, similar to you, decided to go kind of away from the big tech route. Ended up starting my own startup after college. That didn't end up working out. Joined a Series A company for a couple years. That was an awesome experience, and then finally rejoiced with you back at ColorStack
Yep.
almost a couple more than a couple years ago. So
Yep.
it's been a joy building. And yeah, I'm a builder at heart, man. That's what it is.
That's it. So perfect segue because I really want to go back to when you realized that you were a builder at heart. Like we've talked about that.
Yeah,
We've used that phrase a ton. I noticed it kind of in our first earlier interactions. So bring the audience back to actually even before that, just like the freshman, sophomore year Rami, who was just taking maybe your first few courses, figuring out what you wanted to major in, what was going through
yeah.
your head at the time.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so I didn't have any sort of CS background going
Mhm.
into Cornell. Didn't even know what computer science was. And even when I like was choosing my major, I was just like, all right, I'm kind of good at math. So I'm gonna just do some sort of like
Yeah.
engineering thing. So I think I went in as ECE, electrical and computer engineering,
Yeah. Yeah.
and taking a lot of intro courses. And I literally remember the first intro to Python course at Cornell. And I was struggling, man. Like literally the
Uh,
very first project, something that I could probably do literally in 5 minutes now. I spent 20 hours working on that project. Probably like 14 of them was in office hours. And I just remember the look on some of those TA's faces of like, how are you not getting it? Like I've tried to explain this in every possible way. And so, naturally, like
uh,
you hear something like that and you're like, okay, that person's just, they're gone. They're not going to be in computer science or anything like that. But there was
yeah.
something that like kept me there. I was just like, wait, like once I saw the code compiling and running and the
Yeah.
test cases passing, going from red to green, it was just like, it was like a dopamine rush almost, like
Yeah.
it was such a good feeling. And I think I ended the course with like a B minus. And again, you hear that and you're like, maybe that's not for them. And I was just like, nah, like I think I really enjoy this. And I remember even calling my dad because my dad has been in IT as well. And I was just like, man, like I can even see the logic of like going into the dorm buildings of like, the ID cards and swipes. And I was like just connecting all these dots. I was like, oh wow, it's probably similar to like what we were doing in class. Like it was just a couple if statements and then and so like that was all just such an exhilarating experience. And I think that was, kind of an early sign that I was going to be in CS and software.
That's interesting. I didn't know that part
Yeah.
too, where you talked about like connecting the dots to the real world. So I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
computer science students, that's the biggest challenge. It's like I
Yeah.
learn all this theory. I do learn how to code, but most of the CS curriculum is theory. And
Yeah.
you, without having a course that like explicitly showed you what it could do, what you could
Mm.
do out in the world, you were already connecting the dots of what you learned in the classroom to what you saw.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Like there was obviously still the barrier of like, okay, I don't know how the heck it gets done. Like
Right.
that was an unknown to me for at least another, call it year and a half. I
Hmm.
mean, even beyond that, to be honest. But still, I was already seeing these things in the real world manifest, and I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I see the career trajectory here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right. So that's freshman year, what, fall or spring that
yeah,
you took that course.
yeah. First semester fall, yeah,
So now we'll go. So we met spring semester freshman year or fall semester
spring,
sophomore year? Spring
yep,
semester, and that was the physics class, right?
yep,
Um,
exactly.
so at that point you were taking data structures, right?
Was it then or was it the no, I think I took 2110. I think that was first semester sophomore year, I want to say.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, because I
Okay,
remember
so
coming to
yeah,
your dorm. I remember coming to your dorm room in on West
so
Campus.
was after
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay, got
Yep,
it. Oh,
yep.
all right, yeah, exactly. That makes a
Yeah.
ton of sense because it was when I was in the West Campus Keaton house.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so okay, so now we're in data structures. I'm assuming either that semester or the next semester you're taking
Yep,
discrete math,
yep.
etc. How's sophomore year looking? So
Oh,
actually,
that yeah,
talk
yeah.
us through the summer. So you finished this first school year, like
Yeah.
you're feeling good coming back to campus. Like, is there no doubt in your mind that you want to stay in CS?
Oh no, no, no. There was definitely doubt. There was definitely doubt. And and the thing was the doubt wasn't from am I passionate about this? Do I like this
Okay.
path? That was not where the doubt came from. The doubt
Yeah.
came from roommates and people that were around me that are like, oh, by
Yeah.
the way, like once you get to CS 3110, like everybody drops
Mm,
out. Like it's just
mm,
there's no
mhm.
chance. You're spending
Yeah.
30 hours a week on that class alone. Forget about your other
Mhm.
classes. You're just not gonna get through it. And I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, maybe like CS is like a little too
Mm,
far out of reach.
mm,
And so it was like it's funny because it was all these external voices and noises. It
yeah.
wasn't even like something that I got to like earnestly go through and think through myself. So the story I like to tell is that like Monday
Yeah.
I was a CS major, Wednesday I was operations research, which a lot of people were like, okay, it's kind of like it's like CS but maybe a little bit easier. And then like Friday I was like ECE, and I would just keep going back and forth, and I would call our parents, be like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do this now. And that was pretty much all through sophomore year. And
Hmm.
sophomore first semester took data structures, and I killed it. Like I
Yeah.
said, first intro class got a B minus. This one got an A. Like everything was
Nice.
clicking. It was just
Yeah.
like such a
Yeah.
beautiful process. And like obviously a lot of that is because I started to have a little bit more help, like yourself and
Hmm.
others that were acting as a mentor. And that's when things start to click a lot more, I think.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so part of that was this idea. So you said there were still doubts, right? And so
Mm.
at least the earlier part of that sophomore year. And so at least when I'm reflecting back is that it sounded like it was still cool, but it didn't seem practical. It was still like, oh, this is cool. I can kind of extrapolate what happens next and how you can do things in the world, but I still don't know if it's for me or if I'm gonna make it.
It was all fear, like it was
Yeah,
all fear, and it had nothing to do with the major itself. It had to do with
yeah,
the perceived difficulty of like these
yeah,
these upperclassmen courses. And
yeah,
don't get me wrong, like even after the fact they were difficult, but like
yeah.
after having been through it, I just wish I never even let some of these people get
Right,
into
right.
my head in terms of because it is difficult. But again, once you introduce the community piece, which obviously became a lot bigger of a thing with URMC and eventually
Hmm.
ColorStack. Once you have that community piece, things get a little bit easier. And I wish somebody had told me that from the beginning, not that these courses were so difficult.
Yeah, I definitely want to get the community piece because obviously that's the most important
Yeah.
part. But I'm learning some new stuff actually in you
Really?
telling me
Okay.
this. Yeah, yeah.
It's
Just
funny.
different
Yeah, yeah,
components, just different
yeah, yeah,
components that I don't
yeah,
think I was
yeah,
there for.
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, I was gonna ask about like there's a dynamic of where I've talked to different people, as you know, even at Cornell and beyond, where they're struggling, right?
yeah.
And the reason I put that in quotes is because that means different things to different people. Where,
Yeah,
for you, that could be a B minus in a course. It could be even an A in a course because there's like just other axes of consideration of like if this thing is for you. And
yeah.
so I guess my question to you, and hopefully this is helpful to somebody out there struggling as well in their own way, like why why do you think it didn't require like failing a class for like talk a little
Mm,
bit more about like that fear and like why the the facts of like you literally not failing and you literally still having
yeah.
the grades to continue, um, how that would still allow for you to think like, oh, this may not be for me.
Yeah, man. It's a good question. A little bit of context. I feel like that intro class,
Uh-huh.
the curve was set up in a way that like very few amount of people failed. Like
Right.
B minus was like 60% of the class,
Why?
70% of the class, like you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
It was
yeah.
just like, all right, you
Right.
have to try, I shouldn't say this, but you have to try pretty
Yeah.
different, like pretty hard to like really
Yeah.
or struggle to get things to like
Yeah.
actually fail the course. And
Hmm.
I imagine that's the way of like, okay, let's, just move on, like keep going, keep chugging along. Um, I think data structures is when I started to believe that I could do it a little bit more because
Okay.
I actually felt like things were clicking. It wasn't necessarily about the grade for me because like I
Hmm.
can do all this funky stuff and study in a certain way and try to like memorize things where I can
To make it
probably
work,
get by
yeah.
with a good grade.
Hmm.
I knew for a fact that like what really mattered was like, okay, do I like can I intuitively make sense of all these things I'm learning?
Yeah.
And the intuition started building a little bit more. And
Okay,
once
yeah.
once that started coming, then it was like, okay, like I have more confidence, but there was still, of course,
Yeah.
that the thing in the back
Yeah.
of my mind is like these voices and
Right.
talking to upperclassmen and whatever
Yeah.
that
And it seems like they're
it's
always
there.
talking about the next class. Like somebody probably said data
Right,
structures is
right.
going to be hard, and then you ace
Yeah,
that, but
yeah,
then
yeah,
they're like,
yeah.
oh no, well the next one's going to be hard.
Exactly.
Yeah,
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 exactly. It was
yeah.
like this constant thing of not living in the moment and living in the
Mm,
current semester. It was always thinking about next semester. It's like
mm-hmm.
people are always so pressed about, their 4-year
Yeah,
schedule and what's
yeah.
lining things up perfectly. It's like come on, just do the thing
What's
that you have
happening
in
right
front of
here?
you and then figure it out after that.
Yeah, totally.
And honestly, I think a little bit more exposure, like, obviously UMC didn't come into the picture till later, but like even a little
Yeah,
bit more exposure of like recruiters and internships and stuff from earlier, I think probably
right.
would have helped that because I would have been able to see the dots connecting from okay, this is my freshman class to like, whoa, this
Uh-huh.
is like a paid internship, like I'm working at a company, like what does that even mean?
Yeah,
Like to
yeah.
connect that dot a little bit earlier, I think probably would have mitigated some of that, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see those dots till pretty late in
Yeah,
sophomore year, I think.
yeah. Makes sense. So yeah, let's go
Yeah,
jump to sophomore year.
yeah,
So you're taking more classes. At this point you're probably affiliated. We probably had some conversations, you know, that got over the hump, and so now you're
yeah,
CS, right?
yeah.
Um, Talk to us about getting that first internship, and then how that summer was.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember it was second. It was, you know, a lot of the stronger internships and stuff. People typically
Hmm.
get those like early in fall, like
Yeah,
right when you get back to school and everything. And I was
yeah, yeah.
a little bit of a late bloomer. It was like second semester. It was probably like March or something, right? So like
Wow.
literally right before the summer. And there was a career fair happening on campus, and it was the craziest thing is I was so close to not going to that career fair.
Yeah, yeah,
One,
yeah.
it was just like snowing like crazy. It was just like it was so
Right.
much, and I was like, like what is there for me at the career fair? And I went and talked to some recruiters at Fidelity, and went through the interview process and ended up getting. I think it was actually technically a systems
Mm,
engineering role, but it
mm.
was it was the internship itself, like the team needed such high security clearance that I couldn't actually work on
On
anything
anything.
meaningful.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
yeah,
I got to my internship. Well, backing up a little bit, I was so excited when I got that
yeah.
call. And again, this wasn't like one of the super coveted internships, but it was an
Hmm.
internship. And I was
Right.
just I remember even calling you and like Jehron, like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
done, like I'm
yeah,
taking it, like I'm not
yeah,
interviewing.
yeah,
You're like, do you want to try to interview? I'm like, no, I'm taking it. Like
yeah.
I'm not letting this
Yeah.
opportunity slip. So ended up taking an internship and you know, when I had got to Raleigh, North Carolina, that's where the internship was. Yeah, my manager pretty much day one was like, yeah, so you're not gonna work on anything like with the team, but I want you to learn as much as possible. We
Yeah.
have, an unlimited Udemy subscription. You can take literally whatever classes you want on Udemy.
Hmm.
So I was like, all right, bet, like,
Yeah.
say less. Like I've
Yeah.
been wanting to see how all the dots connect. I'm just gonna have to try to do that a little bit of myself.
Right.
And so ended up taking some Udemy courses, Node.js, and I think around that time is
Yeah.
when me, you, and Sinok were kind of doing that course together as well.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So started doing a little bit more of that. and I actually got to build, kind of like a few dummy applications that by the end of the internship got to, demo to my team. And I
Yeah.
actually was able to teach them a few new things about some newer technologies and stuff like that. So that was awesome. That was where I was like, okay, I'm starting to see how to build something real.
Yeah.
Like that was a really cool experience, even though I didn't
Yeah.
get to work on necessarily like production level application.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where it started. And I think around that time is when we started talking a lot more in the summer
Yeah.
and started to think about, okay, how can we show other people this path as well.
Yeah.
That was
So let's go right
Yeah.
into the birth of
Yeah.
even the concept of what
The
would
birth of the
become
concept of the
of the
initiation.
of the theory that would even
Yeah.
become something as big as ColorStack. So
Yeah.
I don't I, I don't remember so a lot of this stuff is fuzzy for me for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
But like I remember we had some conversations. You were doing your thing in Raleigh
Yeah.
at Fidelity. I was in the Bay working at Google, and we were just. It was my first summer there. It was a bigger, obviously, internship of people from a bunch of different schools, and so
Yeah.
I remember something to the effect of just like seeing the diversity, but also knowing that like, oh, but from Cornell, there's not that many, or like, but from
Mm,
these other schools that have high representation, like they feel more
yeah.
comfortable. There's clearly more success happening.
For
And
sure.
so, we kind of got together, started plotting, like, okay, how do we fix this? And so,
Hmm.
what I want to focus on is like for you, besides me being, a salesperson, what is like what was your internal motivation and conviction that like you had to pay it forward?
Um, I mean, it's like the typical, I see somebody in my position a year prior to where I'm at now.
Yeah.
How could I not help that person?
Mm,
Like it's like this intrinsic thing that you want
yeah.
to make sure that people that are in the same position as you, that struggle with the same things as you, can make it out of it. I don't
Yeah.
know if there's a simpler thing than that, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I recognize the power of community just generally. Like even for
Uh-huh.
example, like doing that node course, me, you, and Sinach, like even
Mm-hmm.
something like that, like just three people, like that was enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember how lost I was, man, in Intro to Python, and it was just like I wouldn't wish that on my greatest enemy. You know what I mean? Like it was just about like being in that office hours and like just having the TA just look at, like, not even saying it, just look at you like, are you not hearing like the things that I'm saying? Like that was an awful experience, But I
Yeah.
had to go through it, obviously, but that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I think ever since community's been big and like going back to campus, it was like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's figure out how we can do this, and naturally we
Yeah.
explore the options.
Yeah, so I've
Yeah,
talked a lot about on podcasts and different public forums about my experience getting some UMC off the ground,
yeah.
things like that. Like, tell us your side of the story. Like, like talk about going back to campus, and then when you started to get involved, and then like just your take on that experience leading that organization.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy
Yeah.
because we literally, I remember talking to like Ansu, that Nesby
Mm-hmm.
National Side Back Engineers. I remember talking to a few different people
Mm-hmm.
and trying to figure out, okay, like how can what can we do, pretty much. And we
Yeah.
were like, you know what? Forget any position. We're just gonna pull up to these different. And so one of the
Yeah.
organizations that was on campus was URMC, and again,
Yeah.
very small, 10 people max. That was like the entire organization. We're like, you know what? We're just gonna pull up to this e-board meeting, even though like
And just
literally
video.
nobody like knows it or whatever. And we're just like, we're just gonna be a fly on the wall and
Yeah.
listen. And at that point, like I think that the great thing is we kind of took a lot of the ego out. We're just like, we just
Mm-hmm.
want to help
Mm-hmm.
this organization. We want to like do something.
Yeah.
And from there, like started doing it. But like I think our like official role was like, maybe it was like junior rep, which is like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't even make sense. Like typically there's
Right,
like freshman reps for like, okay, you're new, just kind of.
right.
But we were like junior reps. It's like, all right, we're like the
Yeah,
season reps or something.
yeah.
And
Utility players.
yeah, utilities, exactly, exactly. It's like, all right, we can't think of any other name for you guys. You're just kind
Right,
of like
right.
floating around here. And so from there, it was like literally every single event
Yeah.
we were a part of planning. talking to people, asking them about their experience and just kind of starting to build a community that way.
Right.
And eventually, I think, people saw, the impact of what we were doing and started leading the organization. And from there, I would say that was like, there's a few times in my life when I've hit a flow state. That
Mm,
was one of the times that I hit a flow state.
mm, mhm.
Everything about leading URMC
Yeah.
was beautiful. Like just
Hmm. Hmm.
one, the actual organization in terms of how we ran it, to the people
Yeah.
that we were able to get to like actually see the vision, and now they started to become the leaders. I'm obviously
Hmm.
thinking of the Mias and the Rainers and people like that.
Hmm.
That 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 was when we were like, okay, there's actually a lot of power here in what
Hmm.
we're doing as a community, because
Yeah.
now we literally had people that had nothing to do with engineering or CS that were just like, "Hey, we
Yeah.
heard that the vibe is incredible, and you guys are like building this
Yeah.
this this thing really based on community." So they just started like pulling
Yeah.
up from like the business school and like all these other places. It's like, okay, let's kind of see what this is about. And you know yeah, like we were able to, get in obviously in the actual CS department and work with some
Yeah.
some of the important people in the department, and they started to see like, hey, you guys are we want to do these things, but you guys are much more effective at it.
Hmm.
So pretty
Hmm.
much here's some money, go to these conferences, like, and just report back to us how things are
Yeah.
going. That was the
Yeah.
kind of level of trust that we established. But yeah, it was pretty special.
Yeah. 100% agree. I think
Mm,
you call it flow state, and that's that time period. Similarly, I'd agree. Like that was just like it's just there's only a few times in life where you wake up every day knowing exactly what you need to be doing, and
yeah.
and you do that,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
And everything is just working. That was the biggest thing where it's like things were working. There was a ton of momentum, right? Every day, even if
Yeah.
something's delayed, even if something didn't go the way we planned it, like just there was always momentum.
Hmm.
It was super fun building that, and it wasn't that much time. It was like 3 semesters total of like active
Yeah.
work, right, that we were doing.
Yeah, and like one of those semesters we were traveling to all these conferences,
Right?
and that was cool to see that like we were able to, develop some of the younger leaders in the community that were able to kind of, watch
Yeah,
over while we were traveling and stuff like that. That was a pretty cool thing to see.
yeah. Speaking of
Yeah.
conferences, we got to get the story. Uh, we you said the
This
story.
this one, yeah, yeah, shoot.
The story's been told in private settings, but
Yeah,
now it
yeah,
needs to
yeah.
be put in the Internet Archive.
I got you. I'll give the short version. Yeah,
Yeah, short
pretty
version is
much.
fine.
Um, I'll just short-ish. Um, where do I start with this one?
Technically, we're skipping because technically this is
Yeah,
after.
yeah, it's technically a little bit
Yeah,
after.
it's a little bit after, but
Fast forward, a little bit of time. Um, Drawn meets Day, which you guys already saw that podcast.
yes. Hmm.
Pretty much Day is like, hey, you guys should talk to Black and Brown CS students at the top 20 CS university. Just see what their experience is like. Do they have anything like what you guys have built at URMC? So Drawn, hey, I'm gonna take these 10 schools. You take these 10 schools, and all my list of schools is the University of Michigan. And I didn't know anybody at University of Michigan, so I get on LinkedIn. I'm trying to, find, CS students to talk to, and lo and behold, this girl named Michelle Figueroa pops up. So I'm like, hey, hey, we'd love to interview you about your experience. And let's see, what 5 years later we're married. And that's pretty
Oh,
much it. Yeah,
that is
that's
the
it.
perfect
That's it.
summary of the
No,
story.
no other
5 years
context. That's
later,
it.
we're married.
Yeah, 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 that's it. That's it. No, you can't ask questions. You can't ask any. That's it. We're moving on.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah,
That's podcast approved. That was a
yeah,
podcast
yeah, yeah,
version of the
exactly,
story. I love it.
exactly. Yeah, and who knows? Maybe
Um,
she'll barge into this door at some point and say what's
right.
up. I don't
Yeah,
know. We'll see.
would love the surprise feature, a little
Yeah,
cameo.
yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, tons happened. The point is, tons happened in those 3 semesters, 18 months or
yeah.
so.
It's crazy.
That
It's
changed our
crazy.
lives forever. I think
Yeah,
around that same time I got into Neo, and that
yeah.
obviously changed my life forever. I talk about that a
Big.
lot.
Yeah, big.
Um, and so we we were living together. junior year summer, in the middle of
Yeah.
our co-presidency term.
Yeah.
Um, you were at Adobe, I was at Google. I feel like that was the period of time for us going back to the whole, builders build, you're just a builder at heart,
Mm.
where we were just building, building URMC unlocked this hope and this inspiration to just go change the world in all the different ways that we saw. So like talk about
Yeah.
like I don't know if you felt like you were entrepreneurial growing up at all, but
Mm.
like talk about like what building URMC and building something successfully opened up for you in terms of what you thought was possible for your career.
Yeah, I mean that immediately led to thinking about startups, which is like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And like, it immediately, if you just generalize what we were doing at UMC, it was solving a problem that we saw on campus. And if you think about entrepreneurship, that's pretty much what it is. Like
Yeah.
it's solving
Yeah.
a problem. I mean, even if you think about small businesses, it's like, all right,
Yeah.
there's not a coffee shop around here. A lot of people like coffee. We're gonna
Yeah.
provide that, which
Yeah.
sounds pretty good. About now, I'll probably go after this, but and so it was just problem solving. And now, once you had taken some of these courses and maybe done an internship and started to get some of the technical skills to kind of accompany that, now you put those two things together. You're like, wow, not only can we solve a problem, we could actually do it with tech. And
Yeah.
that was a big unlock. And so, obviously, getting experience solving a problem with URMC now is just like,
Mhm.
okay, let's see what else is possible. So even that summer, I think, what was it? I think at that time I was trying to build like it was called Blue at the time, remember? Like Blue Media. It was pretty
Blue
much,
Media, yeah, BLE,
yeah,
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 that's right,
pretty
that's right, yeah,
much
yeah,
how to get some of the underrepresented orgs on campus,
yeah.
build pretty much an event platform, membership,
Hmm.
all that sort of jazz.
Hmm.
And so even when I was at Adobe, pretty much I was staying after work like 5 till 7, 5 to 8, and I was actually literally working
Yeah,
on that at the Adobe office,
yeah, yeah.
which
Hopefully
was
they don't
like,
see this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
What?
worth zero. It was worth zero
It was
dollars.
zero.
Okay. Matter of fact, you gotta pay me because I was, yeah. And
Right.
so like that was already flowing. So like once you get in the space of solving problems and doing so in like a leadership capacity, and you add the technical skills, now the world opens up. And
Yeah,
we're seeing that even now with ColorStack members of, okay, sometimes you just need that like one or two experiences, both leadership and technical, and now like
yeah,
you might be a YC founder and
yeah,
in a year's time.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that
Literally,
was
literally.
that was the start of it. But I wouldn't say that I had like this deep,
Yeah.
intrinsic like entrepreneurship thing growing up. Like
Mhm.
that was something that was fairly learned, and like just being in the environment where like there was a lot of
Yeah.
other smart people and seeing
Mhm.
what some of them were doing, including yourself. So
Yeah.
um I wouldn't say to anybody that's watching that like, oh, I've never felt entrepreneurial. Like sometimes once you just have the skills and you realize that you could do it, you just do it.
Yeah. 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 And
Yeah.
I think what you hopefully open up for people is that like there's like these entrepreneur types, right? But like
Mm,
at the end of the day, it's really just solving a problem. So anybody can really stumble into entrepreneurship if you just really
yeah.
focus on the idea of it just being solving a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe you could figure out one day what type of founder you want to be, whether it's a CEO type, CTO, CPO, whatever, like all this different types of domains. But
Yeah.
like starting a company is not reserved for just the business major,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So
Yeah.
I think that's incredible.
Well,
So now we go back to. I want to fast forward a little bit now because we basically spent the senior year figuring out how to build ColorStack. We were working on the startup, which became Bloom at the time. And
yeah.
so, what I want people to know at this point is like, talk to us about early career. You decide not to take the Microsoft offer. You're starting your own company. You do that for a year or so. You go into a Series A startup.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
just like, what did you learn about yourself? What were you working at each point, and what did you
Mm,
learn about yourself through each experience?
yeah. Well, the first question was what repeat it one more time?
Yeah. So post grad,
Yeah.
thinking about every stop on your
Yeah.
career, like what were you working on at each
Got it.
um stop, and what did you learn?
Got it. I'll say this. The one thing that's been consistent in this entire time is I've been excited to work on what I've been working on. Um,
Yeah.
and I think one thing I learned early on is like I need the feeling of ownership. Like
Hmm.
I want to be um I want to be able to say that like I know exactly how the system works and like
Hmm.
I've you know built the entire thing. Like that's something that was always exciting to me.
Yeah.
So, with Bloom, obviously like the founder experience is a very unique experience and pretty much had this was COVID back at home now building, what we call the operating system for community managers. And spent about a year building that platform, and it was awesome. Like I would attribute a lot of my technical growth to that period.
Mm.
Even
Hmm.
though it didn't work out, even though we didn't end up, launching in some big fashion,
Yeah.
like that experience and and the silent thing I'm gonna say out loud, not making any money, with that, doing
Right.
that
Right.
pre-fundraising pretty much. That I attribute a lot of my technical growth to because like
Mm.
I'm the one driving the ship.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the captain. So
Yeah.
that was an awesome experience, and taught me a lot, not only about the technical side of things, but also the business side. Like,
Hmm.
wasn't able to keep the company alive and learned a lot of lessons from that,
Hmm.
from fundraising. And like, that's one thing I would encourage a lot of even established engineers, whether you got that big internship or whatever. It's like, once you start thinking a little bit more about business and like revenue
Yeah.
and numbers like that's, I think, a critical, learning point. And so I got that pretty early, I think, with Bloom. The biggest thing I learned is that I didn't want to be CEO. Like that wasn't my,
Yeah.
the fun fact that people probably don't know is I was trying my hardest to get you to be the CEO of Bloom.
Yep.
Which
Yep.
I'm, looking back, I'm happy didn't happen because I much prefer the trajectory that ColorStack is on now.
Right.
But I was just like, man, like I'm not, I don't wake up motivated to like,
Hmm.
solve fundraising issues or whatever. Like I want to actually build a tech.
Yeah.
And so, distinction is that I still do see myself as a founder and future founder and things like that, but not
Yeah.
definitely not a CEO. Like that's not the
Yeah.
space that I want to be.
For
So
sure.
fast
I think
forward,
there's
yeah, go ahead,
a little point there too that I want to make sure
please.
people take note of, which is that like I think one thing that that helped us work really well together is like on average being very low ego about the
Yeah,
way that we get work done, and it
yeah,
helps that we are complementary in our skill set. But
for
I
sure.
think it was very powerful for you to admit that to yourself very early in your career.
Mm,
Because I think there's a lot of internal conflict and co-founder breakups and things like that
mm,
can just come from this component of like ego, where somebody wants to be the CEO or somebody wants to be this owner of this thing, and it's like,
yeah,
what if you can just accept and understand intimately what you're best at and really just do that really well?
yeah,
Um, that I feel like that just accelerates your career, right? Because you just know that
yeah,
you're
yeah,
not wasting your
yeah.
time thinking you're going to be somebody else.
And that's the thing too, is like
Yeah.
eventually it'll catch up to you because
Right. Right.
if you're lying to yourself about what you think is right, if you will burn out. Like that's,
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember something that you were saying at Fam Friday maybe a week or two ago that
Hmm.
is so true, is like burnout generally happens when you're not aligned with,
Yeah.
what motivates you. It's not necessarily like the workload or the amount that you're
Right.
working. So
Right.
eventually it will catch up to you if you're not honest with yourself. And so I think that was a pretty easy
Yeah.
process because I
Yeah.
was I was getting burnt out at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So
Cool. So
um
yeah, so talk
yeah,
about overflow. It's ultimately now that it comes to how how you approached the work that you've been doing the past couple of years as a result of those
for
experiences.
sure. Yeah, so kind of the next sequence was working at a Series A startup team of like maybe 8 to 10 engineers, with a really cool mission of helping people donate non-cash assets to nonprofits. And so like I think that's another thing that's been consistent too, is like I've I've cared deeply about the mission that I've been working on.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it's much easier to come to work knowing that you're working on something that's going to impact people's lives as opposed to just some random thing. So that was an awesome experience. Got to see, like, obviously I was in like that 0 to 1 employee phase. I mean, 1 to 2 employee phase with Bloom. Got to see, a 20-person startup, how it operates, like that's actually generating revenue and like making
Yeah.
money like that, and being on a high growth engineering team. at that point, that was a really cool experience because
Mhm.
yeah, you just develop different skill sets with each one of these unique experiences. You develop a different skill set, and so at that point, it was still moving very fast, like I was founding a company, but it was just within the
Mhm.
context of the engineering team. And I think that's why it was such a great experience for me, is because again, I didn't have to do the CEO stuff that I didn't like. It was
Yeah, yeah,
purely focused on technical, and the company was kind of up and to the right, doing pretty well. So that was
mhm.
an awesome experience, and got to work with a really cool team too. I think that was important for me. Um, and the entire time at Overflow, you were calling, and matter of fact, we were living together in SF.
Right, right,
And I think I remember like a month after I joined Overflow, you were like, "So when do you think you're gonna join ColorStack?" And I was like, "Bro, first of all, you're the one that connected me to Overflow through Kyle.
right, right.
Shout out Kyle." And I was
Yeah,
like, "Bro, yeah, what do you mean? Like
right.
I just started. Like I was like, Jerron, give
Bro,
me,
I just needed
yeah,
you to get that first paycheck so that now that Maslow's
exactly,
hierarchy of
yeah."
needs is reached, and then now we can talk about the real stuff.
Exactly. You're like, so you're good, right? All right, cool. Um, and so that was
Yeah,
a frequent thing, and eventually, yeah, again, moved to
yeah,
SF together with Majola, and yeah, so that was kind of always there,
yeah.
and I think the conversations we were having at that point was, okay, when was the right time going to be, and like also
Hmm.
I knew that I wanted to experience what a 20-30 person startup was like, because we knew that one day in the future we are probably going to build something together. So I was like, okay, let me at least get this experience. So that way, the know-how is there in terms of what an engineering culture
Right,
looks like, and generally just
right.
like that size startup looks like in the future. And eventually it was like, okay, ColorStack has now matured, where like these really big,
Hmm.
organizational changes were pretty consistent now. Like we knew what ColorStack was going to look like with this kind of open membership model. And at that
Yeah,
point, it was like, okay, I think it makes a little bit more sense now to, to kind of build some in-house product, and yeah, that
yeah.
here we are, man.
Here we are.
Yeah,
So last few, we're gonna try to land this plane.
yeah,
Just for the audience to know, we had
yeah.
no script going into this. This is kind of how we
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
just how we do.
I was like, "Ron, we're good,
Um,
right?" He was like, "Yeah, we're good."
don't worry, we've been doing this long enough. We know we're good.
Yeah,
Um, but I'm glad that people really got to hear more about your journey
yeah,
to this point. And so yeah, in trying to land this plane. So for people who don't, because the product that you build isn't public to the world,
mm,
right? Like, if you're
yeah,
one of our funders or something like that, maybe we've given you uh, some context, or maybe you saw something in the impact report or on social media.
mhm,
So, at a very high level, just explain a little bit of the work that you've been doing, the product you've been building at ColorStack for the past couple of years, and just an example of like the impact of that on students.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, everything that we've built at ColorStack has been, how can we help our members accelerate their kind of career trajectory growth, find the
Yeah.
right opportunities, and find the right people within ColorStack, right? Like going back to the idea of community is like, okay, how can we, Slack isn't a community platform, even though
Hmm.
Discord has more community features, not necessarily a community like the way that we
Hmm.
interact, as humans, not necessarily that. And so,
Hmm.
um started to think a little bit about how to build things like, for example, a member directory that has like actual information about what you care about. A lot of times
Yeah.
people care, connect with people that are from the same area ethnically as them. And so even something like that is something that you can, kind of find people based on, or
Right.
um, where people have worked at different companies. Like that's often a very important piece of networking. That's something that you can do.
Yeah.
And then more on the career side itself, we started to think about, okay, what do our members actually need in their like
Hmm.
day-to-day job search. And so, for example, we have this opportunities feature where people can literally just post a link in our Slack, and we'll like automatically extract all the important information, tag it, post it on the
Yeah.
opportunities board. AI resume review, I can kind of go on and on about
Yeah.
some of the tools that we built to help members. And what's really cool to see is like the reception to that, and them feeling like that actually played a big role in them landing that first internship or that first
Yeah.
opportunity. And again, going back to like, even myself and my journey, like having something like that would have been pretty
Hmm.
cool.
Hmm.
And so just thinking about the impact that it's having now on our members is yeah, it's pretty remarkable to see.
Yeah, totally. And I think the most unquantifiable source of impact or driver of impact on our students is the fact that it's open source and the fact that they can
Yeah,
see a product launch and go look at the code and like commit
yeah,
towards that launch. Um,
exactly.
we'll never be able to quantify.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's been great.
Oh,
And I mean, we can go on. I think just for the sake of at least sharing, like you've been also, even though we didn't start ColorStack together, like you've been there, not just building stuff for ColorStack, but just like
mm,
being that like thought partner for me as I'm going through all the challenges of starting a company.
yeah,
And so what I think has always been helpful, or not think, but what I know has always been helpful, is the fact that you can do it all the technical stuff, but it's not that like you don't want to help with some of the other decisions. You just don't want that to be
mm.
a full time job. And like
Yeah,
your voice and your
yeah,
judgment, I think, has been is second to none. Like those are like still very helpful, and
mm.
it's been and helped shape the org as much as I
Appreciate you.
have in doing it full time. A lot of
Thank
those
you.
decisions
Yeah.
early on, like it's me calling you, right?
Yeah,
And we just
and in some
thinking through
cases,
it,
you flying out to LA when I was living at home,
right?
and just like,
Exactly.
yo, we need to figure this out.
Right, exactly. Just
Hey,
defeated some days. Defeated some days.
oh yeah, you made it through, man. You made it through.
Yeah, we made it through five
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
Cool. Well, I mean,
yeah.
there's so many other places we could go, but I'll round out the conversation with one final question.
Mm,
All right, it's a two-part. So, in the 2 years, but really call it 8 years that you've been working on this mission,
mm,
um, what what do you think is going to like never leave you, if that makes sense.
mm,
Like through this experience, what's going to carry, what's going to stay with you as you go into your career, as you build your family, as you build your like, what's the core component of all of this work that you think will always shine through, no matter what you're working on or what you're doing at the time? And
mm.
then the second piece is like thinking about ColorStack in its next 5 years. Um, what do you want to make sure and ensure that ColorStack never loses and always keeps as priority number one?
Yeah, I think for that first question, I think the thing that I want to take away is that life is not like a solo journey. Like
Mm,
everything that you're doing, and this is abstracted way beyond engineering or anything like that. Like you need to do it with other people. And like
mhm,
one of the interesting things about building community is sometimes like we build the best community by like trying to do something else. That's something that you kind of talked about. And so the thing that I'm always going to try to do is whatever is on my mind or whatever I'm trying to achieve, whatever I'm trying to do, whether it's something in sports or whether it's, whatever, I'm going to try to find other people that are doing that thing. I'm going to build community that way.
yeah.
That's kind of the thing that I'm going to stay committed to. I think beyond, future and family and all the different things that I want to do in life, I'm going to try to find other people that want to do the same
Mhm.
things as me. And I'm going to
Love
build
that.
community that way.
Love that.
And what I hope um ColorStack, what never leaves ColorStack, um, I want there to always be trust in the community. I want right now, I think ColorStack's biggest superpower is community, but it's because of the trust that's in the community.
Mhm.
It's because that people know that they can be honest about their different experiences, and they don't have to feel judgment or anything like that. They can come in
Right.
after a long day at work and just say, "Man, I just had a really tough day," and
Yep.
somebody wrote these really mean PR comments
Mm.
or whatever. I want
Yep.
that to always be a space that can exist. Um, because everything that we do at ColorStack is kind of around that. Like
Yeah.
nothing really happens. That's the core. Nothing really happens without that.
Yeah.
So as long as trust is always there, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah. There you have it. Well said.
Yeah.
Well
Yes,
said.
sir.
Well
Thank you,
said.
sir. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
I'll round out the conversation just saying that I appreciate you, ColorStack appreciates you, our students appreciate you, like all of our stakeholders know
Thank
and
you.
love you, and
Thank
know
you. Thank
exactly
you.
how much you mean. to this organization, this mission. So it's
Appreciate
only fitting to close out the mini series
you.
with your episode.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so
Cool.
much. It's been an incredible journey. Obviously, thank you for helping me along the way. Couldn't do it without
Yeah,
you, man.
for sure. Of course.
Okay,
Alrighty, y'all. Well, that's it for our final
cool.
episode of our special limited podcast series celebrating 5 years of impact, community, and growth in ColorStack.
Very good.
Let us know if you want to hear more mini series like this one. If you want me and Rami to just talk every week, whatever you want, you let us know, and we'll try to make it happen.
Let's run it back.
Appreciate it.
Peace, y'all.
Alrighty, y'all.
Have a
Peace.
good one.